Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased to see so many of you. And I hope that we will have an opportunity over those 2 days to get to know each other well and to actually really discuss what we want to do together from now on and also during the Congress and hopefully afterwards as well. So my name is Judith Reiser. I'm from London, and I'm the General Rapporteur. And I have been very lucky that I've been invited to take up this task from my friends from the Netherlands, LOC people, and we have been working together now for, I think, a year and a half or something. And I was very excited about this new format of the Congress. So there is not going to be a single moment of death by PowerPoint. So we can have proper human interaction and we can build things together. And this is rather important because I think we're preparing a book which is called the International Manual of Planning Practice. We're doing a new edition. And our conclusion is basically planning is broken. So we need to reinvent it. So I think the Congress theme is absolutely timely. And I think your contributions are really from the bottom up. How are we going to do that? You know, in real terms, in real world, with real ideas, creative ideas as you are. And I'm very, very happy to work with you. And I understand that you are now going to present the various workshops and where you're at the moment. What I would like to do with you during these 2 days is to discuss the posters and how we are handling that. And I have a few more ideas, suggestions of maybe how you could be active during the plenary in Rotterdam. So maybe we have an opportunity of talking about that later. Thanks very much.
So, hi, my name is Lena, and I'm the IPP of the Amsterdam workshop. So it's how to develop the city in a cooperative way. So why did the city choose the theme? Well, I think we already talked a lot about it this morning, but yeah, the city, it's not like fixed planning anymore, the blueprints. We just design something as urban planners and it will be built. So it's more, yeah, we have really to discover the playing field of urban planning because it has changed and leaving much to be discovered because, well, we didn't discover everything yet. And I think this is also the main theme of the workshop. So, well, because it's a pitch also of the workshop, there are 3 international IPPs, so 2 from India and 1 from Rwanda. And I had some Skype meetings with them, like, okay, how is it in your city? How is the theme related to your job? And then Emmanuel from Rwanda came up with this initiative. So it's Ruinkwava. I'm not sure if I pronounce it right, but it's in Rwanda. And they are really trying to connect education, community, economic and infrastructural challenges and trying to improve the neighborhood there. So these are discussions that we want to incorporate also in the workshop. So how is the theme relevant internationally? Start an international discussion on the topic of urban planning, well, collaborative and sustainable planning. Something about the content and method. Sorry, it's really short because it's just a 5-minute pitch. Well, we're working with Play the City, and Janine is also there from Play the City. It's a method to explore new possibilities of urban planning and really incorporating all different stakeholders. So there is housing corporations, there is local government, municipality, but also like self-builders. And we're using the case of Buiksloterham. So how is the phasing of Play the City, the game? So first, get an analysis of stakes and stakeholders. From there, they play the game. This will be done during the workshop itself. And afterwards, there is an action plan. So what should be done to really redevelop the urban area? Well, these are different examples where they have played it. So, for example, play Oosterwold in Almere, or play Cape Town, play Istanbul. Well, there are different cities already where the game has played, and now it will be in Amsterdam. Oh, wait. So this will be the playing field of Buiksloterham, and in the workshop there will be as I'm, yeah, it's strange to say, but local government involved, self-builders, housing corporations, but at the same time there will be the participants internationally from IsoCarp. So we hope to start a discussion also on how to reinvent planning. The program, as we have so far, well, the first day will be mainly outside, exploring Amsterdam by bike. But so it's the route of Buiksloterham. It's also to introduce internationally or international visitors to the area. So they will cycle along the area and at the same time meet up with local stakeholders. So they will talk to someone from municipality, but also people living already there, or housing corporations. So, well, it's a detailed program. But and day 2 will be inside program. So really playing the game. Well, we discussed that playing the game with 40 people is maybe too much. So we split them into 2 groups. One group, well, each group is 20 people. And one group will play the game, and on the other hand, at the same time, the other group will have Pecha Kucha presentations, really on the topic itself. So we try to collaborate and really start the discussion on the topic. And at the end of the day, well, everybody comes together again, start the discussion and see results of the game. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Antwerp is a city that wants to rework its productivity. And why and how? That's the question we want to get answered at the Antwerp workshop. And it's quite a broad question, so we made it into 4 themes to make it a bit more specific. And along the workshop days, participants will be divided along those themes and people will stick to their theme as well. And during the workshop, at day 1 we will walk, and at day 2 we will talk. And so let's go. Well, at day 1 of theme 1, which is initiated by Guido Meulenaars, we will walk through the Antwerp city center and we'll experience how the new makers movement and the startup revolution is transforming the Antwerp city center. And at day 2 we will talk. We have seen that the mixed city, the Antwerp city center, is a future-proof city, but how is it even possible in a dormitory town? And what instruments do you need to create a mixed city? At day 1 of theme 2, which is initiated by Iris van den Abeel, we will walk through the city of Ghent, so not Antwerp, but Ghent, and we will meet social entrepreneurs and we will experience how perceived unproductiveness can be an urban asset in deprived neighborhoods. And so we have seen that, and then on day 2, we will talk about how can this inclusive economic participation be stimulated through planning or even be a tool in planning. And what's so important about being productive and professional anyway? Those are the questions we're going to ask at day 2 of theme 2. At theme 3, at day 1 of theme 3, which is initiated by Bart de Greef, we will experience how the vast port of Antwerp is partially transforming into a water-based, eco-effective new economic reality. And so at day 2, which is also initiated by Bart de Greef, we will see what have we learned from this experience at Blue Gate Antwerp. How can the potential of port and industry be harnessed for the future city? What is this potential actually, and how is it connected to the city of Antwerp? And of course, who should be in charge in managing, managing all those brown fields and green fields? At day 1 of theme 4, which is initiated by Katrijn Apostel, we walk through multicultural Arrival Neighborhood District 2060. Arrival in Antwerp is that. Arrival on neighborhoods, meaning that a lot of immigrants come to that particular neighborhood and will experience how bottom-up initiatives and civil society creates production and employment. And at day 2 of that workshop, how do you plan this kind of informality? How can you balance the formal and informal in planning, when planning with and for people? And what are the boundaries of planning and control? However, we want to start the discussion on these topics before that. So we'll invite all the participants of the Antwerp workshop and the writers of the papers to actively contribute to the discussion on their preferred theme on our Facebook page, which is to be launched on the 10th of September. The YPPs, me, Marcin and Li Yi, will fire the discussion by statements and visual inputs in the form of cartoons and exemplary projects from all over the world. And participants will be challenged to well, think on their theme on beforehand and open their mind and share their knowledge. So to start creating stories and scenarios so we can start our walk with something to talk. Thank you.
So beforehand I need to tell that between Dirk, who is here, and we wanted to present the workshop, but the format is slightly different, so I have to improvise a bit and mix my presentation with some of the state-of-the-art about the workshop in Brussels, but I will try. So, and I think you've heard about it a lot in the Groningen meetup already, so if I miss something, ask me afterwards. So the main theme of the workshop in Brussels is how to reconcile local expectations with strong international challenges when renewing a city. And well, first I wanted to present my fabulous team, with whom I have been Skyping a lot, who is Luis. He's from Peru, but actually living in Panama now, and it's Justina, and she's living in Lithuania now. And well, we put a lot of effort in getting to know each other and talking on Skype about what's our position as urban planners today, like what's our motivation to do this practice. And we shared our main personal focus points and interests. So Luis is working a lot on tactical urbanism as a way to improve local neighborhoods and city gathering places. And Justina is working with regeneration strategies involving local stakeholders, and also working a lot on collective gardens. And I myself do a lot, I'm a designer, so I'm not educated as an urban planner, and I work a lot on subjective mapping and seeing how we can learn from informal processes. And we came to the conclusion that we have this shared interest in strategies for inclusive urban development. And an even bigger conclusion was that we see ourselves more as, well, we have like an activist role, and we see ourselves as mediators of sociocultural processes. So we use our practice as a vehicle to activate citizens and to create this well, to have a creative citizenship as a creative act. And it's not always about building, but it's also about perception and activating people. So this was one of the pictures I took from a boat 2 weeks ago when I was in Brussels. I had the honor to be in Brussels and do field research there for 3 days with the local organizers. And I was on a boat trip on the canal area, which is the site, like our case study. And I saw this painting. I thought, yeah, that's like, we want to do direct action. And well, and then we hear a lot about bottom up and participation, and we want citizens to participate. And then I also realized, like, we have this romantic idea about citizens to participate, but it's not always that romantic as it sounds, and it's not always that easy as it sounds. And I heard Alejandro Aravena talking this week, and he's actually pretty right, I think, when he says it's not that romantic as we think that it is, and it's all about political processes as well that are can be quite complicated. As young planners, we thought, like, what we find the most important, we don't want, well, bottom up is important, but top down should not be excluded. It's about how we can get those two coming together and cooperate. So we hope that bottom up will dissolve and top down will dissolve into a transdisciplinarity in which cooperation is key between the citizens and politics. So social initiatives are the key, the keystones for territorial politics. So as young planners, we set ourselves the task to talk about that in Brussels, and I think that's important in Brussels because a new kind of urban politics is being implemented. It's quite a complex political situation, which I will not explain in detail now. Yeah, that's the new urban politics is really embedded in the local, but thinking about how to develop the city in a more metropolitan way and in an with an international context, but embedded in the local and working with the citizens. So our tasks, we put them on paper and said we need to observe, we need to register, but we need to be disruptive and we need to need to be a bit provocative by the questions we ask, and we want to catalyze the interactions between the participants of the workshop, enhance collective exercises, and emphasize also on the tactile experience, because during the 2 days of the workshop, in the mornings we will do field visits and to different places. The first day to Molenbeek, which is a neighborhood near the canal area, and the second day to Tour and Taxis, which is a huge warehouse renovated into a startup area, which is more an office kind of area. And in the afternoons there will be plenary sessions with invited guests. So the workshop is developed already really far. Many people are invited, many speakers are coming, telling about their experience, their projects in other cities to share all those experiences. So the main interventions we have planned to do as young urban planners, we thought we want to intervene in the more informal moments of the workshop. So the first idea was to do a field guide during the field trips with, well, first of all, this will enhance the tactile experience of the neighborhood and the Tour and Taxi site. So it's about looking and talking to people, asking questions, and like enhance this different way of looking at the urban environment. But they will also have some small exercises to do in space. Take a picture and describe what you see, or like tiny visual and creative exercises to get people really look at the place they visit. And the second thing is that during lunch or the boat dinner that is planned on Monday evening, we will create a format for authors of essays that are sent in to be presented. Like a first idea was a pecha kucha, but then we want to develop it a bit more to find a more innovative, even more innovative way of presenting this, the essays. And a bit more about the field guide. So it's like a field guide of thoughts, musings, observations, maps, and stories. And day one, which is in the neighborhood, and the theme will be more about how to locally embed the urban innovation and renovation projects. So how to work with the neighborhood. And the neighborhood is quite, for me it was truly amazing to be there, because it was a neighborhood of a lot of conflict going on. It used to be an industrial area, then the industry moved away, and then it became a conflictive area, and now many things are going on to improve the state, but then I thought, like, who defines what's normal and who defines what's good for this neighborhood? So we found it really important to address upon that on the first day. And then the second day, because it's more of an office area, and when I was there it felt like I wasn't sure if I could go in or not, or that I was allowed to be there or not, and I thought this is really about the conflict between public and private, and society and individual, between collective and private property, between control and freedom. And these terms came up when talking to Dirk and Alfredo, who's also in the local organization, and it's about exogeny and endogeny, what comes from the outside and what comes from the inside, and how they meet and how they can empower each other. So that's like, as young planners, we would like to intervene on these topics during those days. Yeah, make your city. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Michiel van Driessen. Well, in Delft, The Hague, the theme is about how to create a sustainable knowledge region. Well, the local co-rapporteur is Frank van der Hoeven, who is over there from the University of Delft.
Hi.
And there is an international co-rapporteur, Randa Janku, from the University of Polis in Albania. And there is also a theme director and somebody from the municipality of The Hague and from the municipality of Delft. And well, the reason for this theme, how to create a sustainable knowledge region, is the fact that the situation of the universities is changing quite a lot for the position of the university in the region. Previously, the competition between universities was national, so that was quite easy to control. But at this moment, the universities are positioning themselves in a kind of international context. So the competition is higher, so they have to be compete in a different way. So that means some changes and some things also for the university and how they actually deal with the environment they're situated in. On a regional scale, that means that they are collaborating with other universities to get a wider profile. For the TU Delft, that means a collaboration with Leiden, with The Hague, with the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. On a city scale, that means that the university should not be approached as a sheer kind of knowledge factory, but it should be an environment which attracts people, attracts jobs and activities. So it should be reconnected to the city where it's situated in. In Delft, there is quite an interesting thing that happened lately, is that they the railway is not kind of dividing the city from the university anymore. So now there is the chance to reconnect both. And the third scale is actually the campus scale, which they call the living campus. Which means that there should be a new approach to the environment where people study in, which is also providing new places to work, to live, for companies to establish themselves there, and for people to meet and to work and to also recreate. So these three challenges on these three scales, that's what we would like to investigate during the workshop in Delft and The Hague, and we would like to do that through the application of urban gaming, because well, as the university is not treated as a standalone organization anymore, but has to try at least to relate itself on all these three scale levels to other stakeholders, we thought that urban gaming is an interesting tool to test how actually you could connect all these stakeholders and all these interests with each other. So what actually it means is that you play a game. So you give every participant a certain perspective with a certain ambition and certain needs and certain requirements. So they actually represent a real stakeholder in the real process. So during the workshop of 2 days, the group of participants will be divided in three, and there will be three game boards where they play on, related to the 3 scale levels which I just mentioned. So the first game board is the campus of Delft. The second is the one of the city of Delft. So to investigate how the campus can relate to the city, and the third game board is on the scale of the region, so how it relates to Leiden, Rotterdam, The Hague, and Delft, and how this kind of mutual connections are established. The first day will be held on the campus in Delft. We'll start with a small tour on the campus. The second day will be held in The Hague. And we'll start with a short presentation of somebody from the municipality explaining about well, the situation and also the collaboration between different institutions on a regional scale level. And these pictures are from a test case. So the game is tested on the campus, also with real stakeholders in June. Actually to investigate how it works and to also to fine-tune the system and the approach. And we will do the same actually the Sunday right before the workshop starts, also with young planners, the international young planners and the international co-rapporteur. We will do a test round with the game on the campus. To make sure that everybody is aware of how the game functions and gets acquainted with the function of all the system. That's it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Well, hi all. My name is Teun Neuling, and I'm part of the organization for the Deventer Pre-Conference. I'm the Dutch young planning professional involved. So what is the theme of our pre-conference is how to implement a legal framework for integrated planning. Maybe a little different theme. It's not really related directly to urban design, but it is with spatial planning and urban planning. But we'll see more in detail now why this is relevant to all involved. So, call to action. Why is this a relevant theme right now, the legal framework? It's because a new planning law comes into effect soon. In 2018, the Environmental Planning Act, or Omgevingswet in Dutch, will come into effect and will be a watershed in how we deal with planning in Holland. Not only because of the legal implications of it, but also how we as planning professionals deal with environmental planning and spatial planning. And this is a great momentum to change the way how we think about and how we deal with our environment. So this is the ground zero of Dutch spatial planning. So how does it look like right now? It's very centralized. We've seen this before in previous presentations. Planning in Holland is quite centralized. But also the legal framework is very fragmented and dispersed. It's spread out over various planning acts and laws. It's partly regulated by the European Union. So it's really hard for lay people, but also for professionals to really see through the whole system of planning laws. And a major point as well is that it's a non-participatory approach. It's very centralized, it's very from the top. So, and this is also for urban design people, a relevant thing, is that now the focus is on legality in the Dutch planning systems, and it's not on quality. It's like checking boxes. How can we have a project that applies to all laws and adheres to all laws, but it's not on quality, nor on urban design or whatever. So, well, this is the Deventer pre-conference logo that we've made, me and other planning professionals that are from other countries. So in need of change, but how? How are we going to deal with this at the Deventer pre-conference? Well, first of all, there are Dutch pioneer projects that have already experimented with what the new legal framework will look like. We give these people the floor. Let them talk about their experiences. But also we have to build on non-Dutch experience from people who submitted their papers, but also from foreign experts. we don't always have the tools in hand to change everything. It's also good to build on other experiences from outside of the Netherlands. And we want to synergize this knowledge from both groups and combine them and create new frameworks for integrated planning. And we're going to test these frameworks in site visits so we can really see how we can implement these new knowledges. Well, this is an example of, or this is an illustration of the site we're going to visit in Deventer. It's called Havenkwartier, or Harbor Quarter if you translate it directly into English. And it's one of the pioneering projects in Holland that have already experimented with a more participatory approach. And that dealt with how can we use the legal framework in a more creative and a more flexible way. So we're gonna use the experience and knowledge that was already built up during this project. So, and how are we gonna facilitate that creative thinking that we need? We need interaction. So we have key speakers for input, like from the pioneers in Holland that have already gained a lot of experience doing this, and also with the reference case to fuel the debate, as I said before, and the site visit to reflect on these new knowledges. Well, and therefore we have an implementation lab on the second day. Well, on the first day we have a site visit. An implementation lab is a creative way to discuss the conclusions that we come across during our first day. And then in the end we will present our findings at a press conference. So there will be a press conference, will be people present, members of press, but also decision makers from maybe municipalities, but also from housing departments and so on. So then we will conclude our pre-conference and present our findings at the plenary session in Rotterdam. So this is, and like actually we have a great ending to our pre-conferences by a boat trip on that we can see the historical city of Deventer and have a nice river cruise while ending our pre-conference. So well, and that's what I said, like fun facilitates interaction, I think. We will start off on Sunday with a historical, with a walk through the historical center of Deventer. And also other parts of the program are really linked on getting an interaction going and all of us have fun and network, so we all are willing to share our experiences. Well, so if you haven't signed up for a pre-conference yet.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joanna, and the National Young Planner for Dortmund. We want to know how to leverage the economic growth by the special projects. And Dortmund is the city, one of the city in the rural area. And the rural area in the last century and also in the before the 80s is the heavy industries cities. And but after the 80s, there are some problems because there is a transformation from the heavy industry to this creative and comprehensive economic model, which changed the whole industry and economy locally. So there's some problems, especially unemployment rates. It's rising. And as you see here, the Dortmund, here we are. The whole rural area is actually polycentric region without a dominant core. So it's a network cities, and it also means actually not only in Dortmund, in Essen, Duisburg, and Wuppertal. Sorry, Wuppertal. Yeah, it's quite similar because. In the previous 15 years, there's a regeneration project, and it's going from the south. So in the south parts, where the regeneration project is quite successful, and so all the wealthy, rich Germans, they all live in the south because the nice landscape. But as we all know, it's post-industry cities. So in the north part, there's a lot of brown fields, and there's the common area. It means the municipalities, they don't have that much money to support these regeneration projects. So it's a complicated situation. So here in Dortmund, we want to know, there's a complex situation, as I mentioned, in the south, in the city. It's quite prosperous, and it's the living environment is very good. But in the north, as you see, it's the post-disaster, the post-industry and areas. Sorry.
Also the first.
Yeah, you probably call it a disaster because, there's around almost 600,000 population in Dortmund area, and 10% of the population, they are foreign immigrants. And then recently there's some social segregation because they are working people, and once the industry changed, they don't really find their position. So our challenge is we want to introduce an innovation idea into non-innovative areas, and we want to understand how could it work. So actually, there is one regional project, and especially focused in the Dortmund North. It's called Northwards, which is this area. And we focus on this Mengede here. So here, as you see, it's all the brown fields. We don't want the gentrification of the regeneration project happen again in the north, because it's happened in the south. And so we want to invite the international participants to share their experiences, because this brownfield issues, it happened not only in rural area but also internationally. So on the first day of the workshop, we want to first introduce the regional planning and also the regeneration situation and strategy to the international participant and also locals. Then we want to use their expertise and to inspire the locals what's the possibilities to redevelop this area. So actually there is already 5 workshops happen in the northwards of Dortmund. The municipality, they really invite the locals and explain the situation, try to have some brainstorm sessions with the locals to ask them what could be in the future. And it's supposed to be an international map. Yeah, here are the 20 international experts from 13 countries, and we try to categorize them, their expertise, and we invite them to share their experiences to inspire the locals. So the main results on the second day, hopefully we can answer the question how to generate local activities and introduce the social acceptance, economic growth, and also what are the challenges need to be defined. And also we really want to invite the locals to have some local initiatives. And so here are the 5 topics the regional plan it's already tackled with. And these 5 topics, like housing and traffic energy and the regional green management and social culture education, and also the most important thing is local economy. These 5 topics, they are the main structure of the regional plan. And we want to, we will have 6 topics. It's all related to the Dortmund locally, but you can also see it as a case to implement in the regional project. So here are the 6 topics. First, it will be we want to know what could be a social constellation and social integrative urban design. And the second, what is about the citizen activation and participant urban network. And the third one, on what could benefit for the local economy, especially the local social enterprise. And the fourth will be the social cultural education. And the fifth is usually the locals, they sometimes they don't think about this, is energy and traffic, because it's more on infrastructure on the city scale and also regional scale. The last is the financing changing, because the regional governments and the municipality, they don't make a physical plan. They don't make the plan itself. They decide to explain the situation and call for the locals, make proposals together, and they can apply for the funds. So in the end, we would like to answer this question, which could eventually answer how to leverage the economic growth by special projects. Here is our team. Jan is from TU Dortmund, the co-raptor, and we also have Alex from, he works in Guangzhou, and I also work with other two young planners, Donatas from Lithuania, and also Vyacheslav from Russia. And basically, we all have experience not only in our home country but also in other countries. And the rest, they are students from TU Dortmund. So hopefully we can really try to bring the international experiences to the local. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with Eindhoven's story and history, so I'll try to summarize it in one sentence. 20 years, right? So Philips used to have a lot of factories in Eindhoven, and they moved away mainly to China. And then Eindhoven somehow managed to revive its design and technology industry again. So our how-to question is then how to react when industries move away. So we thought me and my partners in crime, the other YPPs, they're called Erin from Detroit, which has a similar situation at the moment, and Carlo from Milan. We thought we would approach this question with an appropriate format, which is a hackathon, which is very typical for this new industry that is currently happening in Eindhoven, design and technology industry. So questions we'd like to address is, well, how to react when industries move away, but also how can we use digital technologies for reaction, and how can we use that for creating more meaningful connections between people and their built environment. Right, so a hackathon format is usually going in a very short time, 2 days in this case, going through the whole design process. So doing a bit of research and then a bit of concepts and trying to pick one and just work it out as quick as possible. And usually this happens in groups of people from several creative backgrounds, but also cultural backgrounds in this case. So it might not mean that the results are very, very meaningful, but it helps to exchange methods between those different backgrounds. So this is also our objective. Well, first of all, content-wise, what can we design together for our future cities, and how can we keep into account change in neighborhoods? But also, mainly, how can we exchange methods between the different participants? And as it's happening during the Dutch Design Week as well, we hope to combine urban planners and architects from the IsoCarp environment with interaction designers and industrial designers from the more design background in Eindhoven. So how we're planning to do that is we're starting with, we hope to involve stakeholders from Eindhoven who can give us challenges, and then we make teams as diverse as possible, and they will all tackle one of those challenges. But we'll start with a general introduction into Eindhoven for the first morning. And yeah, then we encourage those people to work on their challenges, and maybe the stakeholders or the challengers, let's say, can visit them as a kind of expert or client meeting in between. And then on the second day we will, well, yeah, this is just a general, let's just, sorry, so I haven't seen this slide yet. So yeah, we work on challenges and we go through the whole design process in 2 days, but because you're working so intensively in one team, we also want to have kind of cross-team activities throughout the 2 days. And then in the end, we want to have a pitch with all the teams pitching their projects. And then we want to have that judged by the locals or by the local challengers as well. So we're aiming to make that into a public event, which is part of the Dutch Design Week program. So a few challenges we thought about, but we're still looking for kind of the connection to someone who actually lives there. One is hack the main street, for example. The Damer is like the main shopping street in Eindhoven, and it's currently like smaller shops are going bankrupt and bigger shops like Primark are taking over. What does that mean for the local kind of social like the offline social network, let's say? Then hack the museum. Eindhoven used to have a design museum, and it wasn't able to, stay into business, let's say, which is very interesting because Eindhoven is one of the main design hubs of Europe. So why is a design museum not? Why doesn't it work? And how can we kind of restart this offline hub, let's say? And then there's another. I think Vincent already said it, that 50% of the people in the whole world live in cities nowadays. So we're living in this urbanized world. What does this mean for children? Can they still play outside on the street? And how can we kind of hack the playground in that sense? So then the cross-team activities. We're planning on having breakfast sessions centered around certain themes that people can propose to us as well. And then this icebreaker morning I was talking about before, we start with an introduction into Eindhoven with everyone without the challenges being known yet. And for involving the papers, we also want to do that as a whole group activity. And the fun thing is, all our papers are kind of, we categorize them in 3 subjects. The first one was more about what happened in other cities when the industries moved away. So we will use that as an inspiration and experience exchange in the first day, early first day. Then the second category is working methods. So it's papers about proposing different methods to tackle the problems. So we will use that at the end of the second day because we think in this hackathon people will be at that stage at the point. Then the third category is very concrete solutions involving arts, rituals in the cities, and looking at the city in the nighttime. So we will use that on the beginning on the third day to kind of tickle the participants a bit. And then we're looking for example, lunch expert lectures from local designers. So those are the cross-team activities. Then in the end, because we're trying to involve local businesses and local kind of stakeholders, we are hoping to also put an award on this hackathon, as usually happens in hackathons. But we're still looking for that, so if anyone has an idea. So give us some advice if you have any ideas, if you know of a challenge that is very local to Eindhoven, or if you want to give a lecture, if you want to be an expert on a certain subject, let me know. So yeah. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Francesca Becchi. I'm the young planning professional for part of the team of Groningen, and my co-reporter is also here, Katrina Huger. And so we are going to discuss on how to sustain energy resources. Who I am? Actually, I'm working in Den Haag. I'm fully involved in energy resources and define for municipalities of in the Netherlands, different municipalities, to find out strategies how to make this energy transition. So our questions that actually come out from my research, and that are actually going to be also the topic of the workshop in itself. And one is how this energy transition, what does it mean from a spatial point of view? For instance, I needed for my research, I needed to define which is the state of art for wind turbine and which are going to be the new technologies. And I contacted different company producers, and one of the answers was like, okay, we cannot say anything about the new technologies, but what we can say is only that the wind turbines are going to be bigger. So that means something from landscape, for a spatial point of view, because if now we are used to energy sources that are invisible under the ground, with the illusion that the energy that we use doesn't have any impact on the landscape, now we need to deal with something that comes above the ground and that is more than visible. So spatial planning is really important, and it's also really important to know who actually is involved in this transition and which is the rule, because energy transition is especially synergy between different professionals. And as we were talking this morning, it's not anymore a centralized process, and we need to deal with different aspects. So it's important to define which is actually the new role of urban planners, and designers, and policymakers, commercial scientists, and local initiatives. Those are the main topic. And the methods that we are going to use is the scenarios method, referred to Zaleski. So that means actually create a scenarios means to create a vivid image of a possible future. So how it will really look like, taking consideration the multiple aspects of the problematic. And so this, starting from which actually is the status quo, which is the actual situation. We are going to be the location for the study is going to be Groningen, because Groningen is going to take the challenge of the energy transition. In 2035, it will be the idea, the aim is to be energy neutral, sustainable energy self-sufficient. And so we chose 3 locations. So the scenarios will be based on those three locations that they are different because of the scale. So we analyze the aspect from a more urban urban scale and to the regional scale. And they are also really diverse. One is urban, it's a city. One is more industrial area. One is more as a harbor. And the participants of the workshop are going to be divided in groups, and each group is going to discuss and formulate hypotheses for possible scenarios. The scenarios workshop is going to give by Simon Kret, that is also partner of Zaleski. And we are going to collaborate, of course, with the municipality of Groningen, with the JBR of the Biennale of Rotterdam, and that's it. And those are all the participants of the team. That is, it's a really varied team. So with different background, and now what we try to aim is to get as much as possible people for the workshop in itself. So we are using the information that we got from the platform, the abstract, to try to start a debate and to get some starting information then to use in the workshop in itself. So
Thank you.
Hello everyone, so I'm the YPP for the city of Maastricht, and my name is Mo. I'm from India, but now I'll be representing Maastricht and telling you a little bit about how to overcome national borders. And of course, it is a very important topic when you think about urban planning, but when you also think about our current socio-political scenario, I think it assumes even more significance. So, essentially, what we are trying to do here is we chose Maastricht because it's the southernmost part of the Netherlands and is wedged in between Belgium and Germany. So it was an appropriate location to test this idea of how you can overcome national borders and build a cooperation across the borders. And as you see, the kind of location that is there, these locations, other than Maastricht, you also have these other smaller regions which are inside Belgium as well as Germany. These cannot be competitive economically as their own. So what they try to do is to now form transboundary urban systems or transboundary cooperation in order to become competitive themselves when you compare to bigger cities such as Antwerp, Brussels, or even regions such as the Randstad, Brainport, and the Ruhrgebiet. So, of course, the topic was how to overcome national borders. And the kind of questions that we try to answer for this is, what is the kind of legitimacy that you can expect from secondary cities? How is work organized in an international context? Do cities profit from knowledge networks in the neighboring towns? And how can we plan a transnational agglomeration? So essentially, what we try to do now is, of course, all of these regions have their own knowledge networks. They also have good facilities on their own, but they try to cooperate with the others, and then you can see, okay, how can they really come up and become a competitive region on their own? So in the case of Maastricht, it is the capital of the province of Limburg in Netherlands. It has major facilities of education such as the Maastricht University and also the Architecture Academy. Hasselt in Belgium, it also has the Hasselt University and also the PHL Architecture. Aachen in Germany, it has also an architecture faculty. And then the third one, Leeg, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. It also has a university with a faculty of architecture. And these four cities are now trying to cooperate with each other to find out how you can build a transboundary urban system. So here you can see the maps of the region. So I've tried to locate the bigger educational institutions in these regions. But other than these, you also have other facilities in the region which can also try to cooperate with each other. So you have this network of facilities which can cooperate with each other. What has been done so far? So there are these certain workshops which have been hosted by the Euro-regional cultural partners in the cities that I've mentioned now. That is the startup phase. And the recently concluded workshop was in the city of Aachen, which my co-rapporteur tells me was a great success. I haven't been able to attend it because it just happened before I landed back here. What we now try to do is that since the topic of how to overcome national borders is a very big topic on its own, we have tried to categorize it into 4 sub-themes. And these sub-themes essentially try to address, okay, what is the position of urban regions in the global economy? And what are the effects of the transition to a knowledge-based economy on urban regions? How to create successful transboundary infrastructural networks? And how also to take facilities of landscape and tourism in these regions to contribute to the success of the urban regions. So when we initially tried to scrutinize the abstracts that we received about 12 to 13 abstracts from all around the world. They all address the topic of how to overcome national borders, but some were from regions which also were conflict zones. So then we couldn't, even though they were very relevant topics on their own, we couldn't really use them to address how Maastricht can achieve this transboundary urban system. So what we now try to tell the writers of the papers is that to redefine their paper so that they can contribute more constructively to any of these 4 themes. So the workshops on both the days will use these topics as a starting point to develop then more conclusive results for the final research. Yeah, of course, probably a major part of what we're involved in is also trying to popularize the topic through social media. And perhaps when I try to do this, what I really understood is that, of course, this is something that we are all very passionate about because we are all spatial designers. But this relentless bombarding of our media through our friends, we also had people who were not spatial designers who were inquiring about what the IsoCarp was all about, what we try to do through this. So in a way, I think it's quite appreciable that we have decided to do this through social media. So yeah, it was a great idea, I must say. So yeah, that's it. So what we also, in addition to the 4 themes that we try to do, the workshops are going to be held in several locations in Maastricht itself. And there are also going to be excursions by bike. And these locations are specifically chosen so that you can physically experience the idea of boundaries by yourself. So I haven't listed the locations here, but the itinerary is being mapped out so that you can actually experience these things while you cycle. Yeah, so that's it so far. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm a young planner working on the Rotterdam workshop, and as you can see, our topic is about how to develop the unprecedented port-city synergy. And why Rotterdam? Because as you may already know, that Rotterdam is one of the most important port cities in the world, not, in the economic sense, but also in the spatial connections. And I think port is also part of the identity of the city. But historically, that port and cities are well connected, but now because of the industrial upgrading, the transitions of economy, that the port and city are falling apart. So for the case of Rotterdam, that the deep sea port is moving more towards the coast. So on the reclaimed land like Maasvlakte 1 and 2, and then we are facing two kinds of transitions. One is about the new port areas and how to manage these different conflicts between environment, port development, economy, and also social impacts. But also, we are undergoing a transition of the old port area where was abandoned or declining because of the transition of the ports. So based on this concept, we have two themes. The first one is on the link of the economic networks between port and city. And the second one is how to develop a new waterfront redevelopment strategy based on the new economic development strategy. So I will just briefly introduce the program. The first day, so on the 19th of October, we will focus on the first theme is about waterfront redevelopment. And the second day will about the economic transitions and networks. And because we have a great amount of participants, so we want to separate the first day workshops into two groups in the afternoon. But in the morning, there will be a joint plenary session with keynote speakers, and then based both on the Rotterdam cases and also in the international context. So, for instance, the first two speakers will talk about the history of Rotterdam as a port city, and also the relations between port and city. And then the third speaker, Tom, will introduce the port development, the waterfront development in the global context. And this will be held in the Port Authority of Rotterdam. And then in the afternoon, we have these two parallel sessions. And the first one, Urbanity, is more about this port development and its impact on the urban development. So let's see how it's influenced like public space, and how the cultural identity of port and its relevance to the city. And the second group is more about sustainability. So how the port development will influence the environment. And we are also facing some challenges and uncertainties like climate change, flood risk. So the participants will be divided into these two groups. And then in the later afternoon, we will take a tour outside in the port area, especially in the Kop van Zout, where the old port of the old port area, but it's considered as one of the successful stories of urban regeneration in the old port area. And the second day is about the economic synergy between port and the city. And for the second day, we will only have one combined workshop with different speakers. But now in the morning, at the beginning, we'll try to wrap up together with our international co-rapporteurs, Peter Robinson and YPPs. Because of the two different workshops, so we want to know what's going on in another workshop. And then we will have we plan to have two lectures on both a local case and also with international references. We also want to invite someone from OECD who has done the research about the port development, but it depends on the availability. And in the afternoon of the 20th, it's a joint session about different paper authors, their presentation on the different international cases. And for these sessions, we plan to have first about the presentation of this paper, and well, which is more or less based on the conception framework and methodology, and then the specific case or comparative cases. And later, we want to have some people who are working as professionals from Port Authority or special planning departments who can have the reflections on these papers, so introduce their best practices from all over the world. So, but we need to improve a bit more on the program for the second day. And then in the afternoon, we YPPs, together with our international co-rapporteurs, Peter Robinson, will prepare the poster. So what are the lessons learned from all these cases and best practices, not only for Rotterdam, but we want to address this in the global, with the global importance. And then we look forward to the future. What are the main challenges and what the road for us as the planners. And then later on, we will take a boat trip in the port areas of Rotterdam to see the current situation of Rotterdam and have a vision for the future. So what are the take-home messages for us that we can think beforehand and to prepare during the workshop? First is about what are the main challenges in the policy development in the future. So like the vision in 20 or 30 years or even longer, then we won't wrap up all these different challenges with different contexts. And the second is about what are the main findings, lessons learned for the context-based strategies. Well, as you can see, we try to include almost different port areas from all over the world. We have already got the participants from not only Europe, but also outside Europe, and some are from China. So we want to combine these different contexts and then to find what are the generic and what are the specific strategies that can be applied in the near future. And then the last is about the role and added value of urban planners. So among the participants, we have different people from different disciplines. We have urban planners, designers, and civil engineers. We have policymakers, and we also have economics and environmentalists. So as urban planners, what's our role in this process? And especially for young planners, I think it's very important to consider that based on this debate. So that's about it. Thanks.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Sietse. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my team. Where I'm selected for is Schiphol. How to connect in a globalized world. A small disclaimer. I haven't been able to contact my local rapporteur yet. So I hope to fix that very soon. But I will give you a small reflection on the team and the progress, I think, so far. So the team, how to connect in a globalized world. What does it mean? It explores the relation between a global transport hub and its surroundings, the city, the region, and its local neighborhoods. So it's quite a broad question and a broad theme. But I would say it does not necessarily deal with a traditional airport city. It's a concept from the 90s, and it's about a closed-off city quarter where the airport is separated from the city. I would say it's more about the integration of the airport with the city. I've been to Munich last year as an exchange, and I've had classes by Professor Tierenstein, and these are some of his slides also. He did some research internationally about airports and about the surroundings of airports. As you can see here, there are various international airports, and they all have, of course, different contexts, different histories. but they all face similar problems and similar challenges: how to steer development, how to overcome the connection issues and multimodality. So I think it's a very relevant theme for IsoCarp, and yeah, that's what I want to say. Here you see the old image of the airport city. Like I said before, it's quite an old concept, but it somehow still comes up today. And it's where the city as an airport is seen as separate from the city. And nowadays, at least in Schiphol, the airport corridor concept is more alive in the policies. It means more about how to integrate the connection between the city and the airport, like I said before. And it's a theme which will be worked upon during the workshop. It's about global connectivity, but also, as you can see here, about modalities. How to connect modalities from local to the global. As you can see here, it's more about multimodalities also. How to connect different modes of transport to global hubs and how to get there. Also, for example, can you bicycle to an airport? Is it possible? And how would you do that? Those can be questions can be addressed. This is in the local policy news. Currently an issue in Amsterdam, or news, the north-south metro line, the new line, should it be connected to Schiphol or not? There hasn't been thought about it when they planned it. But right now they're really saying it must be connected to Schiphol. So that's one of the things that's currently playing in the Amsterdam politics. As you can see here is a small map of the metro system in Amsterdam. And you can see where it would be located. Here's the airport of Schiphol, and you can see the blue line. It means the extension of the new metro line. Yeah, that can be a question of what does it mean for the corridor that would develop then, and what would it look like? This is the Cairn corridor concept. It's one of the main policies right now from Schiphol, and it's being developed. What does it mean in terms of transport nodes? What would they look like? Are they like TOD, for example, transit-oriented development? How would it look like in the practice? And these are the research questions. How to create a synergy between business district, the new town Hoofddorp, for example, which is located between Amsterdam and Schiphol, and the city center. So it's about synergies. And the second question would be how to achieve an integrated airport region for more competitiveness, while incorporating different actors and stakeholders. So it will also be a question about stakeholders and different wants and needs. So I think it's a little bit shorter than 5 minutes, but that's already
great.
That's the presentation.
Great job. Thank you. That's a little bit
I'm just going to talk very briefly about the focus of Wageningen. Wageningen University is a university that focuses on quality of life, and one of the main themes underneath this focus is food and planning, and how does food fit into the city? What does the foodscape of the city? Well, we're looking at a whole combination of issues that all intersect. We're looking at climate change. Food and climate change are intrinsically linked in both directions, of course. So climate change threatens the production of food, and certain types of food increases the output of emissions, which worsens climate change. Urbanization. This is something the Netherlands does pretty well, but a lot of other countries in the world, their cities are sprawling everywhere. Certainly from my home country in Australia. I'm from Melbourne, and it's a very sprawling city, eating into farmland. Soil depletion from this approach, salinity, and of course changing eating habits, which flows on top of that. At the moment, urbanization is a phenomenon that shows no sign of abating, and we can see that there is a number of interplaying with urbanization. On the one hand, we have a sort of a social effect here of farmers abandoning their lands. As you saw recently in the news in France, lots of farmers are protesting on the freeways, blocking it and protesting about the low price of their food. They're not really making much of an income, and they're reliant on subsidies, which are also drying up as we move towards a more market-based economy. And this creates an economic disparity. We become reliant on overseas produce, and we also lose some of the knowledge that we gain from agriculture. This results in a disconnection from food, how we conceive of food, and how we as consumers consume food, basically. We sort of go to the supermarket now and we have this sort of abstraction where we take something off the shelf and we consume it. We don't think of where it's from, the food miles, what are the inputs of the food, whose jobs is it supporting. And this, of course, is also the cousin of the changing diets and food tastes which we're now having, especially in developing countries where you have now a trend towards a more Western diet, high on saturated fats, and this in turn brings up health challenges such as obesity and other lifestyle diseases. And then on the other hand we have sprawl. The Netherlands, of course, it doesn't really have much sprawl, but the Randstad region itself, you could argue, is a form of sprawl. It's certainly spreading out, but along transport nodes. There's a bit of a discussion whether or not, there was a discussion actually a few years ago about whether the green heart of the Randstad should be built in and one huge urban conurbation should be built similar to the Ruhrgebiet, but that never eventuated. But sprawl in general has an effect on food production, of course, because it eats into arable farmland, firstly, and of course it has a greater effect in terms of transport. We again rely on having our food shipped in from overseas or from longer distances within the country. And that's only for developed countries. So in developing countries, as you can see here, this is a map also from Wageningen University research, the sort of effect that we're looking at in terms of soil. Without good soil we cannot produce food, of course. This is quite an obvious concept. And you can see very clearly that the areas in red, these are areas where there's a serious concern about the state of soil, are in predominantly poorer countries or developing countries. You can see Indonesia here, center of Africa, throughout Eastern Europe and Russia there, and China, a bit of Australia as well. And the loss of these soils means that these developing areas, especially the developing areas, are going to have a lot of difficulty producing their own food. And of course they don't have the economic power to ship food in themselves. So, just to wrap up, what role does the urban planner play, and how should we feed our cities? This is a question that a lot of people don't tend to think of when we conceive of urban planning. So this is sort of hoping to inspire people to consider how we can interweave food planning into urban planning, and that is the primary focus of our workshop in Wageningen. We will be looking at, we'll be having some lectures, and we will be having a tour of the local food valley. It's a sort of focus group with lots of innovative and agriculture-intensive industries that are looking at ways to make food sustainable and resistant to these challenges such as soil degradation, such as climate change, and how to include food production within the urban fabric itself as a potential alternative to stopping sprawl. Often stopping urban sprawl is quite politically fraught, and it may be simply easier to reclaim some land in the city and use that for agriculture. At the moment though, urban agriculture is a bit of a fringe movement. It's something that's very difficult to establish, especially in large cities, because of land value. Of course, if you have a patch of vacant land in a city like Amsterdam, the first thing that the market will say is, okay, put apartments in there, cram as many people as you can in, because there is so much demand for housing in Amsterdam. So, that was it.
Thank you.